Welcome to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm delighted to say I'm joined here with Hibernian fan Daniel Macleod. Daniel, let's get right into it. The derby last night, a share of the points. What was your initial thoughts on Hibs' performance?
The performance itself, I was actually really happy with, to be honest. We've seen in earlier games this year, in fact, that Hibs have, not been at the races. But I thought yesterday we came out fighting. I thought Nick Montgomery named a really good team, a positive team. We had Marcondes in the front three. I think we really went for it. I was happy with the performance. I think it's a step forward against a team who are obviously above us in the league. But ultimately, there were a few times I wasn't as happy. I thought we sat off them after the first goal when we could have maybe piled on the pressure. And I think towards the end, the substitutes, they did kind of indicate that we were maybe settling for the draw. But overall, I've got to say I'm happy. And in the grand scheme of things, it does take us a step forward, closer to the top six.
Can you see what the manager's trying to do now and with the players that he's managed to bring in?
I think so, yes. I think obviously initially when Nick came into the job, you saw there was a very clear style of play. You saw, the 4-4-2 he was using basically until the last few weeks. And it was very clear, possession, recycle around the defender style of football. I think the fans can always appreciate that, especially at Hibs, where you like to see the team playing with the ball, playing on the front foot. But I think now that Nick has actually decided to go with a three-man midfield, it's been so much better for us. There seems to be that link between midfield and attack that was missing before. I think the signings of Marcondes, Mariah Welsh and Mizzian Malida have made such a difference, and I think we saw that last night.
And just on the game last night itself, the manager seemed rather aggrieved by one of the decisions that Kevin Clancy made, obviously, to award Harts a penalty. What was your take on that?
It's never in a million years is that penalty, is it? I think, in fairness, I wasn't happy with Will Fish because I think he's gone in a bit clumsy, and I think if he actually committed more to the ball, that he's probably going to connect a bit more cleanly, and he does give the opportunity. With VAR in Scottish football, we've seen decisions that have just been completely baffling. That was one of them. Kevin Clancy, he's gone to the monitor. I think everyone who's watching that game, everyone who's watching on telly, whoever highlights, no one I've seen has said that's a penalty, whether it's a Harts fan. I don't even think Stephen Naismith or Kenneth Vargas is going to claim that for a penalty. So I think Nick has every right to be annoyed, but I don't think Hibs should be using it as a scapegoat for not going out and attacking and winning the game, because we had another 55 minutes to go get another goal and we didn't do that.
Should there be some sort of explanation post-match, do you feel, between managers and coaching staff and referees?
I think there should. We saw in the Aberdeen away game that Nicky Devlin, there was an obvious handball in that one where it just kind of came right off him. There was clear intent. And the SFA actually issued an apology. But Nick Montgomery said after the game yesterday, we might get another apology, but we're not going to get the 2 points, which I think is really the ultimate thing. There needs to be more communication, but I think at times it's just a blatantly wrong decision and it's really kind of unexplainable. I would like an explanation, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it makes the world of difference. And you need to be looking maybe a bit more big picture. Why is the decision making so poor from the referees right now?
And just as Lauren Shankland was standing in front of the Hibs fans ready to take the penalty, there was things being thrown at him, various lighters, pies, all that sort of stuff. What would it do to the game if there is chat of the allocation being cut, obviously, for the Edinburgh Derby? What would that do to the tie?
Oh, it would be such a massive loss. I mean, you see, obviously, with the Old Firm, the Old Firm fixture has just not been at all the same since firstly the allocation got slashed and then it got cut altogether. I think it would be terminal for the Edinburgh Derby. I think it's such a special derby right now. I think the best derby in the league for me, and that is obviously coming from a position of bias, but the fact that both teams get these good allocations, usually behaviour isn't actually too bad, which is why it's a bit of a shame. I think fans, they've got to be a bit wiser. It's just silly stuff and obviously could lead to a punishment. I would hate to see an allocation get cut. It's hard enough to get tickets as it is, but the atmosphere is so special because you really feel both teams. You can hear both fans all game. It's less of a kind of one team advantage like you see maybe at Ibrox or Parkhead. Both teams really going for it. Great sets of supporters, great singing. It'd be awful for the game. And to be fair to Lawrence Shankland, he was absolutely brilliant. I hate to say it, obviously I'm saying it through gritted teeth, but that was a fantastic penalty, and taking a big bite of the pie afterwards, you've got to respect it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and just as an overall perspective on Scottish football, flares are becoming increasingly popular in the game. You're a young fan yourself. It seems to be a kind of young person's thing now. Do you feel unsafe when you're at games, or what's your take on that altogether?
It's a bit of a weird one. I would never bring a flare into the game myself. I'm not going to try and get myself banned from Easter Road or anything by saying that. But you do see it can create a really good atmosphere. I think we've seen, was it Rangers at Dundee? And, it's the sort of thing you see across Europe and it looks unbelievable. But then you've got to be realistic as well. It's not safe for some fans. I don't know if you've got breathing issues or you've got epilepsy. And even you're seeing, sometimes it's being thrown on the pitch and disrupting play. So it's a really tough one. I'd always want to see ways in which we can improve the atmosphere in Scottish football because it is such a great game with such great fan bases. But I do think safety does have to come first at the end of the day.
And just finally then, you're 1 point off top 6, just tucked in there behind Dundee. Do you believe you can get in there?
I do actually. I said before when I was in an interview outside Easter Road that I'm not the most optimistic Hibs fan in the world, but I do think the performances have been far, far better since that Celtic game. We got a really credible win over Dundee, who've just taken an absolute hiding off Celtic. If you look at the fixture list, if there is such a thing, it's maybe favourable fixtures for Hibs. If Nick Montgomery and this Hibs team are to do anything, this is the time to do it. We've got a few home games. We've got the likes of Livingston. We've got Ross County. We've got St Johnstone. This is the time to do it. And I do believe we can get there. But, this is really a character test more than anything for this Hibs side. And
if you are to squeeze in then into that top half of the table, how important is it going to be to have those injured players back to face the top teams?
Oh, I think, that kind of goes without saying. I think that the team right now is actually looking quite strong since the January window, but, you need as much strength and depth as you can get because, a few injuries. And I think particularly in the defensive areas, we could be seriously weak. I think Chris Cadden coming back for me is the big one because, Lewis Miller at times this season, he has been really solid, but we're sometimes maybe seeing a wee bit of inconsistency in his game. When he was away at the Asian Cup, we had to bring in Rory Whittaker and Kanayo Megwa, who've obviously got a lot of promise, but, these are just young boys getting thrown into high intensity and sometimes quite toxic situations at Easter Road. I'd love to see Chris Cadden come back in, show some of that attacking intent from that right back position or even higher up the pitch. So, yeah, I definitely think the injured players could make a difference. I'd personally like to see, some of the older boys, your Paul Hanlons, come back into the team, show a bit of experience, help them through the tougher moments. I think Josh Campbell too. I think we maybe missed, some of these homegrown players last night where they've got that extra bit of bite and desire being Hibs men.
Daniel, thank you very much for your time today. You can see the full interview on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel.